Good morning, everyone. Welcome to LisaBug Yoga Foundations. This is our third week in this foundation class where we kind of dive a little deeper into the nuts and bolts of a few of the poses. Maybe there are things that you've done a lot and you're just getting a little bit of reminders here and there on positioning. Some of the things maybe you're not familiar with at all and really need a little bit more guidance in those poses. Today, I'm focusing on inversions. And I know that for some of us, that's kind of a scary word, inversions. And I remember years ago, I was chatting with a member who I was inviting to take my yoga class at the Y. And she said, well, yoga is just not for me because I don't do inversions. And I thought, oh, that kind of has a little bit of a connotation that's negative for people sometimes. We are going to do basic inversions, and all that means for you today is that in most of the poses we do, our head is slightly below either our core or our legs. And when we stand for many hours in a day, we reduce the blood flow to the brain because of gravity, and we increase the blood flow down into our legs, which sometimes can contribute to the blood and the lymphatic fluid kind of getting stuck down there in the lower body. It can lead to some swelling of the ankles, some edema. And so we want to get that blood to come back towards our core center, back up to the brain, back toward the heart, just to help with some circulation. So what I want you to do, if you have a chair, is I want you to come and lay on your back and just prop your feet up on your chair. And there's a little bit of a trick to getting into this position so you don't have to scoot around so much on the floor. So I'm going to just tuck my body in really close to the chair with my shoulder here and then lay over onto my side. And then when I roll over onto my back, voila, the chair is right there for me to prop my feet upon. If you don't have a chair, you can set your feet on the wall and you can have your knees either bent or your legs straight up in a legs up the wall position. If you don't have either one of those, just try to elevate your legs some way, maybe placing them on a pillow or up on your blocks. And then let's just begin to center and ground for our practice today. Close your eyes, come inside. Bring your awareness to your body and to your breath. So we connect what I call the 3 B's. The brain, which is our thought process, our mindfulness, our body, the physical being that we are in our muscles and bones and joints, and with the breath. And you can place your hands here right onto your abdomen if you'd like. And then as you breathe in, expand the belly outward. Fill that lower belly with the air from the nose down through the trachea, through the lungs, and as low as you can go with the breath. Then as you exhale, flatten the belly back down toward your spine. And take really slow breaths in and out through the nose. And if you have no way to prop your feet up, then I just want you to be laying on your back with your knees bent, your feet flat on the mat. Then release the hands from the abdomen, place the arms next to the side of the body, and push down into your legs a little bit into the chair, or if you're just feet on the mat, press into the feet, and try to lift your pelvis up off the floor any amount. Feel those muscles behind the backs of the legs, the glutes and hamstrings engage, and then lower your hips back down. And let's do this with the breath. So as you exhale, the hips are lifting. As you inhale, the hips are lowering. And I just want you to notice how much you can raise your pelvis off the mat. It might be just a couple of inches, or you might be able to get the hips actually above the heart to start to flow the blood from the knees down to the hips, down to the heart. And let's take one more, lifting the pelvis up into our bridge. And then lower back down. Now, taking care that your chair doesn't move, bring your feet toward the edge of the chair and see if you can lift your hips even higher up into that bridge. And then roll down one vertebra at a time. And press up. And again, this can be done just on the mat with no props, coming up into a higher bridge. But when your feet are elevated like this, you can typically get a really nice lift into that bridge. And then let's take it up anywhere that feels good for you and hold. So in this position, I have a nice elevation of the knees, the hips. So I've got the blood flow coming down from the tops of my knees into the thighs, through the pelvis, down through the core, and toward my heart center, and eventually toward my brain with that blood circulation. Let's just take 2 more breaths here. And then bring it down. Now, option 1 for our next exercise is just to keep your hips on the floor, lift your right leg up, and do some flex and points for the ankle, which is activating the muscle pump. So we're squeezing the blood from the lower legs down toward the heart. Level 2 is lift yourself up into your bridge. Keep your left foot anchored and take that right leg up and flex and point. If you don't have a chair, you can lift up into a one-legged bridge on the floor. And we're firing the tibialis anterior muscle in front of the shin, as well as the gastrocnemius or our calf muscle on the back side of the lower leg. 3 more, flex and point. And then if you're up into bridge, place that right foot down and roll back down to the mat. With the left side, let's try level 1, just keeping the hips on the floor, flex and point. Or use both legs to lift up first to your bridge. Get yourself settled, lift that left leg, and activate the muscle pump. So this is a really nice inversion. We're really sending that blood from the lower extremities down toward the heart. It's really good for varicose veins and spider veins. Try to keep your hips level so you're actually firing your core here a little bit as well. And 3 more, flex and point. And then both feet on the chair, lower back down. And then take both legs straight up. And we'll flex and point both ankles at the same time. So we're going to draw circles with our ankles. So you'll flex your toes toward you, circle outward and back around. And you can also circle your entire thigh bone, not just your ankle. So you can roll your thighs out and in. And if you're doing this pretty vigorously, you should be feeling this in your shin muscles. And then reverse that circle, go to the outside, and then pull in as you flex. Ooh, good morning to that tibialis anterior. One more circle this direction, and then relax your legs back to the chair. Just pause for a moment, check in. Notice how you're feeling after having done that nice warm up for the ankles. Now we are going to give ourselves a supported bridge here. So I have a pillow. I also have my blocks. So whatever you've got close to you that you can tuck under your hips, will bend the knees, lift up into your bridge, and then slide that right underneath the pelvis so that you've got a little bit of lift for the hips. So we are going to be here either with the legs completely relaxed on the chair, with the knees bent, or with the legs extended up. And we're just going to be here for about 2 minutes in any of these positions that feels best for your body. And we want it to be a relaxing position. So we're just passively letting that blood flow from the lower extremity back toward the heart. And the reason for the prop underneath the hips is just to give that pelvis a little lift so that gravity can do its work to ease that blood and lymphatic fluid toward the heart. Check your neck position here. When you're laying on your back, if your head is way back and your chin is up, you might need a little pillow behind your head for these poses. And the same thing, we don't want to have the chin really tucked in toward the chest either. So try to really lengthen all sides of your neck. And let's take 3 more breaths here in our supported inversion. And hopefully now you're starting to feel a little bit better about that word inversion. Oh, this is something that I can do. Not that mysterious word that sounds like we're going to be doing handstands, although that's an inversion as well. Okay, let's prep to take your prop out from underneath your back. So feet go back to your chair. Lift your hips up, slide your prop away, roll down from your bridge, and then just roll over to your side and press yourself back up. Okay, coming into child's pose. So I'm going to turn my head the opposite direction from the chair because I might use it in this position. So I'm fairly close to the chair, coming into child's pose. And find a child's pose that feels comfortable for you. And depending on how much you have your knees bent, this could perhaps be an inversion. So the higher your hips are up above your knees, the higher that angle is, the more that this pose is actually inverted. Take 3 more breaths. And then bring yourself up to all fours. Well, take the right leg and send it straight back behind you. Maybe you can actually set it on top of your chair if you need to use that for a little bit of guidance. And then use your strength of your upper arms to lower your chest down toward the mat and to press up. So I'm keeping my elbows in pretty close, a little bit of a tricep press. Now as you go down, you can actually let that leg lift and press away. It can lower back down to tap the back of your chair there. When we're in our lowest position here, we're getting the benefit of this inversion and really building strength in your triceps. Now, you don't have to go really low with this. So you can just do a slight elbow bend and press back up. Once you rise back to this position, come down to your forearms and lift this leg way up. And you can do some ankle flex and point. You can do some circles. So this is another inversion. So if you notice the position of my body, my leg is higher than my hips. My hips are higher than my heart. My heart is higher than the head. So we're getting the benefits here of an inversion. We're also getting some nice benefits of stabilization for the shoulder joint. All right, let's press ourselves back up to the hands. Bring that knee in. Then extend your left leg straight back behind you. Level off your hips. Again, the chair, you don't have to use it. It's just a nice guideline for the position of my body. And then we'll bend those elbows any amount and press up. So it's not necessarily bad to bend your elbows out to the side, but it's not a really good supportive position for your shoulders or your wrists. So we try to tuck those elbows in as we bend and straighten. Now we can add the leg raise. So as the body goes down, the leg goes up and push away. It's similar to a little teeter-totter action. Head stays neutral. And I like to exhale as I'm coming back up, but you can do the reverse of that as well, just as long as you're breathing. Let's get 2 more here. And 1 more. Then we'll lower down to our forearms, which will automatically drop our head slightly below the heart. Let's lift that leg up and then begin to articulate the ankle. Circles, flex and point. Just activating again the muscle pump. I still have my head neutral, so what we don't want to do is to look way up. So if you're looking at your computer, that can put your neck in the wrong position. And you don't want to really just allow your head to completely relax. So that nice neutral cervical spine. All right, so let's press back up to the hands. And then bring that left knee back to the floor. We'll come into puppy pose. So puppy pose is similar to child's pose, but we're going to keep the hips right directly over the knees here and walk our hands way out. Then drop the forehead down to the mat or to a prop. You can use a pillow or a blanket or your block there. And slightly push down into active arms. So what I want you to think about is your forehead is touching something, the floor or a prop, but not relaxing all your body weight into your head. So you're using some support with your arms to slightly lift some weight out of your forehead. And this is very similar to the way our downward dog should feel. Now, if you're really, really flexible here through the shoulders and through the back, you can tip your sitting bones up, lift your chin forward, or even your chest and come down to the mat in that position. But really being careful of the neck there. Let's take 2 more breaths in our puppy pose, which is a modification for downward dog as well. And then draw your hands back in toward you to press up. And we'll find that same feel to come into downward dog. So tuck the toes, lift the hips up, walk the hands way out there, push back off of your wrists, and try to get that same feel in the upper body. Now, if you'd prefer to use your chair here, I'm going to show an option for you to come up and turn around and place your hands on top of your chair, walk your feet back, and do your down dog from this position. So let's take 5 breaths here in down dog. If you want to pedal out your feet, you can. And this is essentially an inversion. 4 more breaths. Letting the blood flow down from the top of the hips, the tailbone, all the way to the head. And 2 more breaths. And bring those knees back down. And drop down to your forearms. So we'll come into dolphin. You can interlace your hands, and your elbows should be the same width apart as your shoulders. That's a good guideline. Tuck those toes underneath, lift the hips up, and we try to find that down dog position by pushing forward with our arms and bringing our chest back toward our thighs any amount. And just hold here 3 breaths. Your head is off the mat, so it's not touching. And you're looking right about toward your ankles. And then let's lower down. Take a break for those shoulders by coming into child's pose. And you can also sweep your arms around the side of the body, and that will really help relax those shoulders and your wrists as well. So I'm going to give you the opportunity to use your chair to increase your inversion. You don't have to if you don't want to. You can come back into your dolphin pose again. So what you want to do is make sure you're pretty close to your chair back behind you. Make your, interlace your hands to make your triangle position for your upper body. Tuck your toes, lift your hips up, and then just see if it feels comfortable for you to put either one foot or both feet back onto your chair. And we just hold here 4 breaths. A really nice inversion. You can also lift one leg up really high and then the other. 2 more breaths. And if your feet are on your chair, walk them back down to the floor. Drop the knees to the mat and rest in your child's pose. You can also use a wall for that particular drill and bring your feet up onto a wall behind you. Now we'll come into a forward fold for another nice inversion. So tuck the toes, lift the hips up, walk the feet toward the hands or the hands toward the feet. Sorry about the throat there. And grab opposite elbows and hang in ragdoll. And just let the blood flow from the hips down toward the head. You can sway a little bit from side to side. And relax those shoulders, relax your head and your neck. You can also face your chair and place your hands on top of the chair and relaxing there. 2 more breaths. And then place your hands down to the mat. Your chair is behind you. We'll try to put the right foot back and just touch it to the chair. You can also have blocks underneath your hands here to support yourself. And this is called the standing split. So it's another form of an inversion. You can also lift that leg up away from the chair and just circle the ankle, flex and point, work that muscle pump. So as you're holding, I'm going to demonstrate this with my hands on the chair as well, which is a really nice option supported here. We lift that leg up. We try to lower the head a little bit below the heart. And then lower that right foot back down, come back into your forward fold. If you need a break from being in the forward fold, you can take that standing straight up if you'd like. And then your hands can come to the chair, to the floor, to blocks. Lift that left leg up. If the chair is behind you, you can set it on the chair, or you can lift it way up into your standing split and then activate the muscle pump. Flex, point, circle the ankle. Just about 3 more breaths here. And then we'll lower that leg back down, come back into your forward bend one more time. Ragdoll pose, clasp the elbows. Or if you need a break from this position, you can stand up and shake the legs out. Then we'll flow in and out of our forward bend. So release the hands, soften the knees, inhale, rise up. Very slowly, because we've been folded forward for a while, you might feel a little bit lightheaded. And then come back down into your forward bend. With the breath, inhale coming up. Exhale, lowering down. And one more. And inhale all the way up to finish. Press the palms and draw your thumbs into heart center. Then turn around and have a seat right on your chair, toward the front edge of the chair. Separate your feet really wide, and we are going to do a seated happy baby, and it's another form of an inversion. So use your hands to help support you. Lower your chest down. Maybe you've got a block in front of you that you can support here as well. And I want you to try to find the lowest position that you can go with your upper body and then with your head. So this is a nice hip opener, a wonderful low back release, and also just a slight inversion depending on how low that you're coming. So if we were doing traditional happy baby, we would be on our back. The knees would be bent about 90 degrees, the feet facing toward the ceiling. We'd grab the bottoms of our feet and pull the knees toward the outside of our armpits. So we're essentially doing the same thing, but we've just flip-flopped it over to taking it into the chair. And 2 more breaths. And then you can bring your hands back to your thighs. Take your time to come up, making sure that you're not lightheaded. Nice long spine. And then we'll step back into our downward dog right in front of us. So stepping to the feet, walking the hands down to the mat, fairly close to the chair behind you. And then we've got our three-legged dog. So let's take the right leg straight up. You can also set that right leg to your chair. You can flex and point the ankles. Really push off of your hands and drop your left heel down as close as you can to the floor. Get that maximum stretch. Then bring your foot to your chair and really brace in your shoulders. And I want you to just see if you can, for a second, pick your left foot off the mat, and then you can set it back down. So if that's not working for you to just pick it up a little bit off the floor, I want you to leave it on the mat. If you can pick your foot up off the floor, maybe you can get both legs back to your chair. And you're still pushing like you're in a downward dog into this nice inversion or handstand prep. Wherever you are, 2 more breaths. Then bring your left foot back down to the floor. Walk your hands towards your feet. Forward bend or ragdoll. Flowing forward bend. Release the hands. Inhale, come up. Carefully, make sure you're not getting lightheaded here. The blood's been to the heart or from the heart toward the head for a while. We'll fold back down. Twice more. Inhale, come up. Exhale, lower down. One more time. Inhale. Exhale back into that forward fold. Then walk your hands forward until you are in your down dog position here. If you want, you can stay there, or you can lift the left leg up into three-legged dog with some ankle pumps, or you can bring your left foot to the chair. And if you want to try picking up the right foot, just really press into your hands, stabilize your shoulders, and see if you can pick it up off the floor for just a second. If it's not going to work for you, then you're staying here. If you can pick that foot up, maybe you can bring it to the chair. Lift those hips nice and high. You're in your down dog with legs elevated. Handstand prep. 2 more breaths. One more breath. Then lower that foot back down to the floor. Walk your hands to your feet. Come into ragdoll and relax. And then we'll take 3 flowing forward folds. Inhale, come up. Exhale, coming down. And 2 more. And one more time, breathe in. And breathe out. And rise up to hold and finish. Press the palms together and bring the thumbs into heart center. We're going to stretch our hamstrings, either using the chair to sit in or to turn around and use the chair to put one foot up on top of the chair. So variation 1, if you're sitting, you sit toward the front edge of your chair, take your right leg straight out, support here, and then lower down into your stretch. You can also use your yoga strap. Place it under the bottom of the foot and pull down. If you're doing the standing option, it gives you a little nice balance challenge here. As the leg is on the chair, square the hips, hinge right from the hips, and fold forward. So depending on your hip flexibility and hamstring flexibility, this could almost be an inversion, just depending on how far you can come with your head. Another option for this is pyramid pose. So both feet on the floor, staggered, and then you can really bring that head a little bit lower in pyramid. So it all kind of depends on what your goal is for today. If it's really just working hamstring flexibility, then I want you to take the pose where you can stretch the deepest. If you're wanting to explore your inversion with it, then you might take a different position. If balance is your challenge, then take your hands off the chair, maybe bring them behind your back as you hold. And we'll take about 3 or 4 more breaths here. And then take your time to rise back up. If you're sitting in the chair, just bend both knees. You can bring your hands behind you to the back of the chair, or if you're standing, bring your hands back and take a chest expansion. Lift your heart slightly, expand through your chest. And then let's stretch out the other hamstring. So if you're seated in your chair, extend your left foot forward on the floor. We'll support on the right thigh. If you're standing up, we'll place that left foot to the chair and let's explore the range of motion we have on this side. You can also use your yoga strap if you're taking the standing option. Place it under the bottom of the foot, give it a nice pull. And guide yourself over that leg any amount. Or you can take your pyramid pose if you're looking at coming into more of an inversion. And make sure you have just a teeny tiny micro bend in that extended knee. So we don't want to lock it out. We don't want to push down on the top of the kneecap here. We want to keep that joint stable, but not locked. And let's take 3 more breaths on this side. And then we'll come all the way back up. If you're sitting in your chair, take 1 more chest expansion by reaching your hands behind you toward the back of the chair. Or standing, we can come here. You can use your yoga strap behind you or even clasp your hands together. All right, releasing the strap, if you have that. We'll come into a yin pose called dragon, which we can actually use as a little bit of inversion, but it's a really nice hip opener. So we'll inhale, sweep the arms up. Exhale, come down into forward fold, and we'll step the left foot way back behind you. Drop your knee down to the mat and come into low lunge. If you need padding for your knee back there, you can take a little blanket underneath it or make a fold in your mat. And let's walk this right foot really wide out to the right side of your mat. So you can put both hands in the middle, down toward the floor or onto a block, depending on your flexibility here. And we're looking for a nice angle of this knee and the ankle in alignment. We're trying to keep the hips slightly lower here than the shoulders. Now I want you to just play with this where you can take it. Maybe you can bring your elbows down a little closer to the floor or onto a block. You can actually let your head slightly relax. And maybe you can bring it a little bit below the heart to have some benefits of an inversion here. If not, that's okay, because this is mostly for us a nice hip opener stretch. Now come back to place your hands to the floor and take this right foot and turn it out. So I'm pivoting on my heel a little bit. Then let your knee open out by rolling onto the outside blade of your foot. Turn your right shoulder up toward the ceiling and reach this arm nice and high, or place your hand on your hip or bring the hand behind your back. So we're adding a twist with our dragon pose. If you need to come down a little lower, you can bring your left elbow down to the floor, and you can actually use your right hand to help guide your right knee open a little bit. And keep dropping the front of your left hip really close to the mat. And we'll take 3 more breaths in our dragon. And then come out of the twist. Both hands go toward the middle. You'll pivot this foot back to straight in alignment. And then you can stay here or tuck your back toes under and lift your back knee up off the floor. So we are going to try a little bit of a half bind. So keep your right hand on the floor or onto a block, and see if you can pick your left hand off the floor and bring it to your hip. And then turn toward the left and try to wrap your hand behind your back, that left hand. So for a full bind on this pose, which maybe some of you can do, you're going to wrap the right hand underneath your right leg until you can bind your hands together. You can also bind your yoga strap behind your back. And let's take 2 more breaths here. And then come out of your twist. The back knee drops back down to the mat. We'll swing this right leg around to come into child's pose. Take a little bit of inversion. Try to keep your hips slightly higher than the forehead. And then we'll work on our dragon on the left side. So we'll take the left foot and step it toward the upper left corner of your mat. So you want to have the foot nice and wide here so that you can bring both hands into the middle. And if you're pretty tight in your hips, use a block. Use your chair maybe to help you support here. And already I'm feeling more of a stretch in the front of my right hip, which is where I tend to be tight. So take some time to just explore this pose and how low you can take it down. Make sure that you have this nice alignment of this front knee over your ankle. And some of the other things that I see with this pose is sometimes the rear end is way up. So drop that down so you get this nice stretch through the front of your hip. Let's take 2 more breaths here in just our regular dragon. You're kind of hugging your left knee towards your left shoulder. And then we'll start to rotate this a little bit. So pick the toes up of your left foot and pivot your left foot out to about 45 degrees. See if I can move here so you can see this foot, and then let your knee open so the sole of your foot is coming off the floor and you're on the outside blade of your foot. Then we start to turn toward the left. The left hand can reach. You can bring it behind your back. You can also come down to your right elbow. And you can use your left hand to gently press your left knee away from you, increasing that stretch. So comfort is most important here. Yin poses are held a little bit longer typically, so you want to be in a comfortable place. Adjusting for options you need in your body today. Let's take 2 more breaths here. Then come out of the twist, bring both hands to the middle. Pressing yourself up, we'll pivot that foot forward again. And then tuck your back toes under so you can lift off of your back knee. So maybe you're just here for today. If you want to try the half bind, you're going to keep your left hand on the floor or onto a block, and the right hand reaches behind your back. So we're twisting the opposite direction that we did with the previous pose. And then if you'd like to try your full bind, this left hand reaches under the leg, the right hand reaches over until you can clasp them together and hold. Wherever you are today, 3 more breaths. Slowly come out of the twist. Drop the knee down, swing the left leg back around to meet the right, and take an inversion in your puppy pose or child's pose, slightly dropping your forehead down toward the mat. And then walk those hands back in. Come up high onto both knees. Take a chest expansion, either pulling the arms back here in goalpost or at your hips, or hands can interlace, and just allow the front of the shoulders really to open up. Now we began our class this morning with our feet up on the chair. So I'd like for you to take your time and get back into that position again as we work on the progression of one more inversion. And you can also have your pillow close by to support your hips as well. And I had a yoga teacher that taught me how to come down into this position, and she said it was the ninja roll. So we do the ninja roll by rolling on the side, and then the knees pop up so our legs can be right on top of the chair. So we are going to do a prep for plow pose or shoulder stand. And this for some people is contraindicated. So if you have any neck issues, then I just want you to go back to doing bridge that we did earlier. So we'll bring our feet to the front of the chair and lift those hips up as high as we can into bridge. Now there's a few things that we need to think about when we're doing this. Number 1 is we want to have some space in the front of our neck. So we want to make sure that the chin isn't totally jammed into the sternum there. So we have some open through the throat, and you also want to be sure that you don't turn your head from side to side when you're in this position. So if you want to just relax here on a blanket or a pillow, you're going to let that come underneath your hips, and then you're going to take one leg as close as you can to your body and do a little bit of a hamstring stretch here. If you feel more comfortable being higher with your hips, your legs are up. We have one leg up and we're going to guide it down toward our face. So this is a prep for plow, which eventually you'll have both legs over. But for today, we're just going to do our prep. And if you don't have a chair, you're just on your back with one foot on the floor and you're pulling that leg in as close as you can toward your body. All right, let's try the other side. So bring that right foot to the chair. Left leg comes up. We're going to guide it toward us. Two more breaths. And then bring that left leg back to the chair. Now, if you have full plow in your practice and you want to go ahead and do it, what we want to do is support the low back here with the hands. One foot comes up, then the other, and the legs go over any amount. If you haven't tried it and you're not sure, then I feel best if you just do one leg at a time for today, since I can't be there to monitor and make sure that that looks okay for you. We can also lift the legs nice and high and do a shoulder stand here as well. And we're trying to stack our feet above the hips. So wherever you are today, 3 more breaths. Maybe your feet are on the chair, you're up in a high bridge. 2 more breaths. And then the last one, roll yourself down from that bridge. And let's take happy baby, which we did in our chair today. So we bring the knees up, bend them about 90 degrees. We flex the feet like we're planting them right on the ceiling. Grab for the outside of the feet, or you can grab for the backs of your thighs and pull those knees down toward the armpits. You can rock a little bit side to side here. Enjoy that nice hip opener and lower back release. One more breath in happy baby. And then close the knees together. Relax your legs back to the top of the chair. When we do a lot of inversions, it brings our chin forward. So what we want to do is counter that by opening up the throat. So take your hands, lift your hips up a little bit and bring your hands underneath your pelvis. Lift up off your shoulders and roll your elbows underneath your body. And then lift your head up just a little bit and open your throat. So this is a modification of fish pose. While you're holding this, I'm going to demonstrate the full fish laying on your back, which you can do that as well, just sliding yourself back away from your chair so that you're fully extended out. We have the hands underneath the pelvis slightly. We lift up onto the elbows, draw them close together. Let the head drape back to open the front of the throat. If neither one of those feels okay for you, you're just on your back and you're just lifting your chin up to open this part of the throat, not worrying about anything else in the pose. Just can be very gentle. And then to come out of that fish pose, you'll lift the head back up to neutral. Open your shoulder blades out. Slide your hands out from underneath you to lay either flat on the floor or knees supported up on your chair, or legs straight up in our legs up the wall position. So let's just take a few more ankle pumps here as we begin to close our practice, bringing our awareness back to the breath, and then just relax in stillness, allowing that blood to flow back toward the heart. Arms can be by your sides. And we'll use this pose to close our practice for another couple of minutes. If you prefer to be lengthened straight on your back, you can do that as well and come into a traditional Shavasana. And as you're relaxing into this final pose, just allow your mind to drift back on your practice, to seat in your memory anything that you might have learned today about your body, about a new pose for you, about your yoga practice, about something that you can work on your own. And we'll take about 5 more breaths here in our closing pose. And take your time to roll over onto one side. And there's no rush to press yourself up. Just stay there for a moment. And when you're ready, we'll come to a comfortable seat, either sitting on the floor or maybe back up into your chair. And we'll take our head and turn toward the right as far as you can. Look over that shoulder. And then as far as you can to the left side. Come back to the center, then tilt your head to the right. So right ear comes toward the right shoulder. And left ear toward left shoulder.